Distribution complete. Power grid stabilized. Life support systems optimal.
Well done, Jack. We're getting full power here.
How is progress on your end?
Dr. Harlan's still running sims, but I think we at least have a working theory.
All the models we've run so far appear to confirm biomass interaction with an active FTL triggers an abnormal buildup of energy within the drive, resulting in the formation of a temporal anomaly.
For reasons we still don't fully understand.
It is also unclear why the accident only caused the android's software to travel through time, as opposed to the more physical time jumps we've observed with the Astrea. But at this point, I'm willing to accept these ambiguities and proceed.
Wait, what exactly are you saying?
We must try it again.
What, send Jack back in time again? You've got to be kidding me.
It's the only way. Any chance we have of eliminating the biomass lies with finding an undetonated torpedo. We must send the android back.
You talk like he's expendable.
Of course he is. All of us are. You've seen how it spreads. Eradicating the biomass is going to take everything we have, and then some.
Yeah, well, it's not just up to you, is it? Jack, what do you think?
Dangerous or not, the potential lives saved makes it worth trying.
That's an awfully big risk.
You would do the same were the roles reversed.
And you would probably try to talk me out of it too.
Would I succeed?
All right. Fine. I'm in. What do we need to do next?
We're going to have to recreate the circumstances of the time travel accident.
Oh, don't tell me.
We're going to need biomass. Contained biomass samples specifically. The research facility should serve our purposes nicely.
There is one other problem. The FTL accident depleted the drive's fuel cells, and we don't have the supplies to refill them.
Then our best bet for a fuel cell will be the remnants of the Astrea. However, exploring that area may be difficult. Pesky shipboard defense protocols somehow remain active. Something off with the AI, Juno says.
Could be just as dangerous as dealing with the biomass, really. Well, Jack, what's up first? Grab some creepy crawlies from the research facility? Or dig up a fuel cell for the FTL drive?
I'll collect our biomass samples first.
Though no longer operational, there is a tram line leading from the central transit hub out to the research facility.
Understood.
So when Jack eventually returns with these volatile materials, where exactly do we plan to store them?
I believe I can convert elements of the refueling depot to suit our needs.
Need a hand?
Why, yes, Captain. Your assistance would be most appreciated.
Anything's better than just sitting here. Come on, Popcorn. Let's get ready to head out.
Good luck out there. See you soon.
This equipment is some form of dock or buoy?
Affirmative. It's one of the station's charging docks. They're set up to facilitate recharging and navigation for the various drones deployed here. Though it is worth noting that the Doctor and I have redeployed several pieces of equipment as well. Fortunately, with the generator repaired, we should be able to restore most of the equipment throughout the station by scanning their data ports.
Understood. Is Habitat B reachable?
I'm afraid not. It's completely severed from the rest of the facility and beyond the signal range of the systems that currently allow you to reboot.
Oh, yeah, definitely not worth that risk. We can just let this one rest in peace.
Analyzing. It appears optimizations were being tested on this cargo drone's maneuvering thrusters. Assuming other drones were testing similar optimizations, scanning their data ports should allow me to reverse engineer the concept and apply it to your own maneuvering thrusters, making them more energy efficient.
Copy that. I'll see what I can do.
Excellent. I'll add a tracker to your data tab. Charging dock restored to operational status. You may recharge your shield as needed. Oh, interesting. I believe I may have found a secondary use for restoring these docks, recovering their local data, specifically because the docks normally maintain a coordination and optimization network. They contain shared data from across the station. Prior to the generator going offline, the units in irradiated areas were sharing optimizations that I believe could still be used to improve your multispectral shielding, Jack.
Scanning further docks should provide the necessary data?
Yes, I believe so. I've added a tracker to your data archives. At least a small amount of that data is relevant to the biomass. We can use it in our development of a cure.
Juno, status.
Multiple impacts. No discernible hull breaches yet. The station appears to have absorbed the brunt of it. Habitat B has...
Forget the station. It's a lost cause.
Understood. Drones are responding. The situation is normalizing, but the vessel still appears highly unstable.
That's not surprising, given what it's been through. Begin scanning immediately. I don't want to lose our chance of finding the torpedo.
Of course, Doctor. Patrol drones are inbound making a pass now. Doctor, we have detected a human life sign.
Survivor?
It appears so. Shall I make contact?
Yes. And do what you can to make this transition easy for them. I'm sure they must be disoriented.
Indeed. I'll use the data we obtained on Luna to formulate an appropriate response.
Good. And what about the torpedoes?
I'm still sweeping the wreckage. Nothing as of yet.
We should prioritize the rescue anyway. Survivor from another timeline. But only one. must have seen.
Doctor, I've made contact. The survivor is one Captain Olivia Rhodes.
That name. Where have I heard?
That was, or rather is, the name of the Kronos 2 captain.
From when the Astrea first arrived.
Indeed. Her speech patterns are a 99.7% identical match with those from the distress signal we recovered from the Atlas logs. It appears she was not killed in the destruction of the Kronos 2 after all.
So she's from our past, then.
I believe so, yes.
Then, well, she won't be able to help us. Is Habitat A intact?
It is, yes.
Move her then. Once I finish developing the cure, we can figure out what to do next.
Shall I inform her of...
No, too much to explain, and we don't have time for distractions. She'll be in the dark for a few days.
Careful, Jack. There's another form of the biomass nearby. You may have seen them before. Elongated structures with an affinity for spore dispersion. There also
Indeed,
appears to be an
cysts.
operational
Their
antidote.
rapid regrowth, even after bursting, makes them particularly dangerous. This specimen appears somewhat different than the others I've previously encountered. It has tentacles.
Yes, I believe that particular adaptation manifested somewhat recently. The biomass has been evolving continuously since your time. Regardless, you'll want to keep your distance, if possible.
I've located a stalled tram car. There are casualties inside. Both victims of severe biomass infestation.
Any idea who they are, Juno?
I'm afraid I'm unable to discern their identities from here. And unfortunately, the station's transit logs are corrupted. I can't access passenger manifests. The only way to identify the victims would be by scanning their personal data ports. Unfortunately, our access is blocked by the biomass. As we currently do not possess any means of bypassing the infestation, I suggest we move on.
This appears to be another form of the biomass. It detects my presence, much like the other specimens encountered thus far.
We classify it as a reticulated B biomass organism, but most people just call them webs.
Aside from their namesake membrane, webs can also be recognized by an additional nodule. It should be quite distinct. Oh, and Jack, that distinct nodule I mentioned? Think of it as a sensor. If it detects you, it will stimulate the web's expansion reflex. Just something to keep in mind as you explore the station. You're approaching the biomass research facility. This is where the outbreak originated.
We're sure there's some contained biomass on hand for Jack to retrieve.
Logs indicate 1 or 2 containers should still be in storage. However, reaching them may be difficult due to the entire facility being under lockdown.
The tram entrance will undoubtedly be your only way in.
Acknowledged.
Data stores recovered. Network connectivity restored. This should prove useful in optimizing your multispectral shielding, Jack. Warning, you are now entering an irradiated zone. It is most likely due to warheads and other debris from the Astrea. I've adjusted the coloring of the nearby field markers to reflect the level of radiation. Orange for light intensity, and red for heavy. Please exercise caution. Analyzing. Perfect, as predicted. I now have sufficient data to improve your multispectral shielding, Jack. Please return to the nearest fabricator for installation.
Copy that.
I would advise caution, Jack. You were approaching a radiation field.
Juno, is this a communication device?
Close. It's a long-range sensor suite, an integral part of the station's early warning and collision prevention system. By coordinating data with a small deployment of tug drones and patrol craft, the system ensures that any debris on a collision course with the station is appropriately diverted.
Wish we had that when the Estrella first arrived back home.
It would have made little difference. Just half of the Estrella arriving here far exceeded the system's capacity.
Fair enough. Though, wait, does that mean those drones and whatnot were the ships Jack and I saw out the window when we first jumped here?
Correct, Captain. Shortly after the Estrella's arrival, the automated fleet reacted. I assumed control of one of the drones to make contact. Dr. Harlan made checking for potential survivors a priority.
Thank you. Both of you.
It was simply the right thing to do.
The facility appears to be in fairly poor condition, but there is at least some power flowing.
Due to the generator being restored.
Unfortunately, I'm still unable to access any systems further into the facility. Power flow stops at the entry terminal. It appears that the systems are outright disconnected, including the physical entry bridge. Jack, you'll need to reconnect those systems to gain entry to the facility.
Copy that.
Installation successful. Jack, your multispectral shielding should now be more resistant to radiation. Please note, however, that contact with biomass will still drain it just as rapidly as before.
Understood. Thank you, Juno.
Of course.
There's a room jutting into this cave. Could it be part of the biomass containment area?
Negative. The room you're seeing is part of the facility's integrity monitoring system, responsible for tracking any changes in the asteroid structure during excavation. For safety reasons, biomass containment is located much deeper in the facility.
This appears to be some sort of focusing device. I haven't seen anything like it elsewhere on Chiron Station.
It's actually a prototype of the technology our containment units use to keep Dix pacified.
This device looks vaguely similar to the cranes we saw in the transit hub.
Good eye, Jack. That's because it's an early version of the stasis field technology used by those cranes, as well as our cargo drones and many other systems. As you can imagine, the ability to manipulate objects without direct contact has significant advantages when dealing with the biomass.
A scale model of the FTL drive on Dr. Harlan's ship. Was the drive developed here?
Not exactly. While the few FTL drives still in service were refitted here, the original design was actually reverse engineered from the FTL drives left behind aboard the Estrella. That was done by your former employer, in fact.
Wait, Atlas built them?
Indeed. Before the company dissolved, of course.
So Atlas reverse engineered their own technology from the future?
Technically, yes.
Huh. How perfectly normal and not at all confusing.
Somewhat odd to leave this case empty.
It's fairly straightforward. Our work was never finished.
This bridge is currently disconnected, as part of the lockdown procedures.
Correct. The doors won't open until both sides of the bridge are fully extended.
Did they get everyone out?
According to these logs...
No. Not everyone got out.
It seems someone was emphatic about maintaining the lockdown. I'm guessing the console would have controlled the bridge.
Affirmative. I'm not seeing any backup controls in the blueprints, unfortunately. It's possible the cave contains systems not listed in the schematics. It may be worth a quick investigation.
I believe this is a manual activation switch.
It should restore power to the immediate area, as well as the rest of the research facility. Just keep in mind that you'll also be awakening any dormant biomass within.
Establishing main generator connection. Be advised, Class 3 power fields will become active. Dormancy will be nullified.
Hey, Jack. I know you've got this as always, but by restoring power, we're undoing something that was put in place as a die-hard safety precaution.
We're certain this is the only place we're going to find a contained biomass?
Assuming these fragmented station logs are correct? Yes.
Well, that's reassuring.
Finalizing connection.
Connection established. Now receiving power readings throughout the facility. Jack, once you have the bridge fully extended, you should be able to access the facility proper. Though I suspect some areas may have additional security requirements.
Nora, the research director would have done everything she could to contain the outbreak. But there is no containing it. This was an eventuality.
It's fortunate that your disagreement over priorities led you to be elsewhere when the outbreak occurred.
It's only fortunate if I'm right.
These are auxiliary controls for the extension bridges.
Correct. They should allow you to extend the bridge now that the power is restored.
Bridge reconnection complete.
I'm heading back to the entry terminal.
Dr. Harlan, if these power readings are accurate, our suspicions appear confirmed.
What's that now? What suspicions?
Educated guess, rather.
Which is different how?
We were concerned that residual power currents may have allowed the biomass to continue spreading for some time after the lockdown.
Okay. And?
Webs have likely taken hold. Caution is advised, Jack.
Acknowledged. I'm crossing into the main facility now.
Copy that, Jack.
Biomass has taken hold here.
Given that it got this far, the rest of the facility will likely be much worse.
In the security control room, I've found a casualty.
According to logs, Adler Reyes.
He must have been trying to keep the scanners running to prevent the biomass from leaving the facility.
But if someone found the scan,
They would have had to remain behind. Unfortunately, even the scanning room itself became contaminated.
you think that's how it spread to the rest of the station?
Most likely. With background contamination, the system would have had a difficult time producing accurate results. Inevitably, it failed.
Jack, you are now entering the facility's lobby. Biomass containment is located through the leftmost door.
Electrical systems here are clearly suffering from extreme damage. The lobby's directory is effectively useless.
Good thing we've got someone who knows their way around.
Always happy to be of assistance, Captain.
I was actually talking about Dr. Harlan. But thanks.
This area appears to be locked down.
That's the test wing. We should focus on reaching the containment area.
Electrical systems here are clearly suffering from extreme damage. The lobby's directory is effectively useless.
Good thing we've got someone who knows their way around.
Always happy to be of assistance, Captain.
I was actually talking about Dr. Harlan. But thanks.
Another one of the web forms. I still have no way to bypass.
Then try the labs. The research they were doing there might prove useful.
Copy that. I'll see what I can find. Electrical systems here are clearly suffering from extreme damage. The lobby's directory is effectively useless.
Good thing we've got someone who knows their way around.
Always happy to be of assistance, Captain.
I was actually talking about Dr. Harlan. But thanks.
There's some kind of added security here.
Dr. Everett Harlan reporting. Authorized laboratory access.
Voice-activated authorization. That's a smart security feature.
Thank you. And you're welcome.
Biological specimens.
The director was always in here. Dissecting, testing. She was tireless.
She must have had a cast iron stomach.
One of the toughest people I have ever known.
These controls are running some sort of automated procedure.
The system is no longer reachable over the network. Cut off by the biomass, no doubt. It must be an old test, abandoned during the outbreak and resumed now that we've restored power.
What sort of research were they doing here?
The director was convinced the cure was impractical. So she poured everything into containment technology.
Did she have any luck?
When I left, she had everyone working on miniaturizing the insulation cloaking from our containment unit. I'm not sure how far they got.
I assume these microscopes were used to observe the biomass.
I believe so, yes.
Development of the biomass containment technology required research at the macro, micro, and even nanoscopic scales.
With these microscopes, the researchers would have been able to observe the effect of their containment technology in real time, with a more manageable sample size, of course.
It must have been a heavy responsibility to work so closely with live biomass samples. This transparent aluminum is reinforced.
Unfortunately, that's still not enough to withstand concerted biomass growth.
This web is preventing me from further exploring the labs. Perhaps there's something in this lab that could help. Is this a control interface?
That's right, for the robotic arm in the adjoining chamber. Use the holographic controls to adjust each part of the articulation.
Is this some type of emitter?
It looks to be a functional prototype. I knew they were close, but I didn't know they had moved into practical testing. The basic concept was to surround the biomass with a cloak of electromagnetic insulation, preventing energy from reaching it.
Kind of like using a blanket to smother a flame.
Indeed. The idea was to build these cloak emitters as a reactive defense against the biomass, to contain it.
I can see a wide range of applications. It's
Just all based, not a solution. I wish you could have seen that.
such versatile technology.
And it still wasn't enough.
Biomass at the exit neutralized.
It's possible I failed to foresee some of the cloak emitters' eventual implications.
Sounds like your research director was on the right track.
Nora. She never gave up. I could hardly ever pull her away from her work.
Dr. Harlan, if I may interject, the local data I'm seeing implies that the director's efforts to develop cloak-emitters proceeded beyond prototyping. Portable versions were installed in some of the X3 medtech shells. Several of these shells appear to have been left behind in the medical wing.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
I believe it may be possible to fit Jack with a similar device, a portable cloak-emitter.
What is involved?
I'll need you to retrieve the data from one of the medtech shells here. With that, I should be able to reconstruct the portable cloak-emitter's design.
Copy that. I'll see what I can find. These medical beds were used for diagnostic scans?
And to monitor potential treatments. Many of my peers focused on post-diagnosis options.
What sort of options?
Pain management, transmission reduction. Though most patients with terminal diagnosis volunteered for cure research.
Wait,
This log indicates a multitude of visitors. Some were children.
Yes. Many of the station's personnel had families. Most of their children were suitably behaved. Some were not. Still, I hope they reached safety.
This toy appears to have been left behind.
Brendan Lyles. It has to be. That boy was always leaving his toys about. A habit he does not appear to have corrected in my absence. I am glad he made it out, though. Perhaps not being able to return for it this time has taught him a lesson.
It's more likely he has simply fabricated a new one.
Shush, Juno.
I'll need to manually open this door. I assume it was shut down as another precaution.
Most likely. If the medtech shells have data we can use to reconstruct a portable cloak emitter, it will be worth the risk.
I'm entering the medical lab.
Doctor, perhaps you should step away for a moment. I'm sure there's still plenty of output data to parse before we're ready to initiate the experiment.
She's here, isn't she?
More than likely. Yes.
Who? The research director?
I can handle it, Juno.
Are you certain?
I'm not looking away.
Dr. Adriana Lay.
She was too young for this.
I've recovered her research. It also seems she received a message from Dr. McKenna with all of his access codes attached. Would you like me to play it?
Affirmative.
Beginning playback.
Hey, Adriana. I know I can count on you to look out for everyone. So I'm sending you my access codes. You should get you into my stuff and a few engineering areas. Spare rations when playing cards, whatever else. any of it helps even a little bit, please, take it. Share it. I figure it might make things a little more comfortable for you all.
Tram prepared for departure.
Shit, I gotta go. I have no idea how to end this. Good luck. No. Goodbye.
End of message. If any of Dr. McKenna's codes prove useful, I'll add them to your ARM computer.
Thank you. This device indeed appears to be a portable cloak emitter. Juno, I believe your conjecture was correct.
Naturally. If you scan the shell's data port, I believe I can create a similar device for you. Cloak emitter module identified. Unfortunately, the data contained in this shell is only partial. Jack, to complete the reconstruction, I'll need you to scan additional units.
Understood. We have another casualty.
Dr. Jordan Decci. She specialized in pain management therapy for the infected.
A further casualty of the biomass.
It appears he was trying to assist right up until the end.
A keypad for the duct. Juno, could one of Dr. McKenna's codes work here?
I believe so, yes. Try 2525.
Access to the utility ducts granted. Moving through the vents now.
Tell me something, Doctor. How long does it take
What?
for the infection to run its course?
Once it becomes fully active, usually somewhere between 3 to 5 days. But most victims opt to expedite their end.
Right. So, how does the infection work once it becomes active? I mean,
The biomass drains energy directly from your cells. Your body is in the throes of widespread cellular decay. Major organ failure follows 12 to 18 hours later. But at least by then you're not in as much pain, since the infection has likely started feeding on the electrical signals traveling through your nervous system. By day 4 you've...
all right, I get the picture.
Perhaps we should shift focus back to the mission.
Jack, it's okay. I asked. I should know what I'm in for. Just maybe not all at once.
Excellent. That shell contained more data regarding the portable emitters. We'll need a good bit more to reconstruct the design, though. we still need more data. Interesting. Doctor, this shell has a log conversation regarding the director and your research.
Go ahead, Juno.
Beginning playback.
Alright, Unit 5, back to the lab. The director wants to run those simulations again.
Really? For what purpose?
I'm not sure. Dr. Harlan's ideas were intriguing, to say the least, but, well, I suppose the director knows best. Go ahead and prep the simulations. I'll join you shortly.
Acknowledge, Dr. McKenna.
Huh. So the director eventually explored your theories after all?
I didn't expect she would continue it after I left. But without the biomasses-based genetic material, it would have been as much of a dead end as containment. I just couldn't convince her.
I found another arm equipped with a cloak emitter, a backup safety measure.
More than likely. But that's the problem. The biomass can't be contained. No matter how many redundancies you put in place.
Patient chart reveals catastrophic cellular breakdown.
Most likely an internal infection that passed through the tissue.
Does that happen in every case?
Eventually, but the host is usually deceased by then.
Well, that's a relief.
In this patient chamber, I found another casualty of the biomass.
Based on the logs, Dr. Chandra Miles.
She was one of the few who subscribed to my theories on the cure. I always appreciated her insight.
Controls for the nearby cloak emitter. Fortunately, they're still operational.
My reconstruction of the personal cloak emitter is nearly complete. One more scan should be sufficient. Data collection complete. Finalizing tool reconstruction. Reconstruction complete. Please visit a fabricator to install your new cloak emitter. cloak emitter installation successful. This portable version is practically identical to the mounted prototypes you've been using thus far.
Excellent. A tool like this will make it much easier to get around.
Just keep in mind that its effective range had to be reduced to achieve portability. If you move too far away from your target, the tool will deactivate.
Ah. Noted.
Nora, it's Dr. Barry, the research director.
This data includes a message from the research director, addressed to you, Dr. Harlan.
Play it, Juno.
Perhaps I could store it for a later time once we...
Juno.
Of course, Doctor. Beginning playback.
Everett? I don't know if you'll ever find this, but I wanted to get it out before... Well, before things get any worse. If you do manage to find this, well, then you know what's happened. I suppose the good news is we got the emitter deck to work. Which, if I'm not mistaken, means you owe me dinner. Robert, listen to me. I know you're going to try to put all this on yourself somehow. Make yourself believe there was something you'd have done had you been here, but it's not true. You understand? Don't go trying to carry that. We all knew developing a cure was virtually impossible. No one here was waiting to be saved. You're leaving. You're already doing everything you could do to try and stop this. I miss you, Everett. Be safe. I love you. Goodbye.
Jack, according to the blueprints, the only way forward to the containment area is through the lobby.
So sorry, Harlan.
I too am sorry. It's clear you meant a great deal to one another.
She was a good person. She deserved a better resting place than this.
She's alone. Why aren't there any medtechs here?
She must have sent us away to help the other patients. Of course she did.
I'm back in the lobby, proceeding to biomass containment. There's another voice-activated control panel here.
Additional security for the biomass containment area. It requires the voice authorization of a high-ranking official.
Well, we've got Dr. Harlan, right? Let's get that door open.
My authorization won't be enough. We'll need someone with higher clearance.
The research director.
After a lockdown, she'd be the only one able to enter containment.
With a large enough sample of the director's vocal modulations, I should be able to synthesize her voice.
We've got a log of her final moments. That's not enough?
Unfortunately, no. And inaccurately synthesizing her voice could lock us out permanently. We'll need more vocal data.
Great. So, we're stuck then.
Pull up my personal archive, Juno. There's just one file there.
You're sure, Dr. Harlan?
Go on.
Beginning playback.
I'm not going to be able to change your mind, am I?
I just... You know I wouldn't leave unless I had...
It's okay. A kill would change everything. We talked about that. Just listen.
I know, Nora. Me too. I won't be long.
That should be enough for me to synthesize the director's voice.
Do it.
This is Dr. Nora Parekh. Authorized containment access.
Juno,
Yes, Doctor?
never do that again.
I'm entering what appears to be an excavation site.
You are correct. It's the only remaining route to the biomass containment area. We should be able to find our sample there.
Acknowledged.
Is this containment area where the outbreak started?
Most likely. I'll continue parsing logs to see if I can determine what happened.
I'm sure that's not necessary.
Do it. I need to know.
Of course, Doctor.
I assume these barriers were set up while construction was taking place.
Correct. Data files show a series of tunnels extending beyond the barriers.
Were these excavators being used to expand the containment area?
I can't be certain, but given the advancements made in insulation cloaking technology, I imagine they would have been trying to ramp up testing or possibly even production. Undoubtedly, that would have required taking in more samples than the facility was currently equipped to contain.
Could that be what caused the accident?
Possibly. If the research team was indeed rushing to complete work on the cloaking tech, then it is possible certain containment systems were overtaxed.
I should have been here.
Then you'd be dead too. And so would we, probably.
I'm detecting a tick up ahead.
Would my cloak emitter be effective? Cloaking successful.
All this advanced tech, and the biomass still broke containment.
Yes. This is why eliminating the biomass is our only option.
Juno, these excavators are automated?
Correct. They would have deactivated automatically as part of the lockdown.
Makes sense. Best to turn off every power source possible.
I'm approaching a large opening. There is a conveyance system installed overhead.
That is how newly arriving containment units were transferred into main storage. Local telemetry indicates a significant biomass presence throughout the area. Containment certainly failed here.
Acknowledged. I will proceed with caution.
Nice work, Jack. There's a lot of good data here. It should help in developing a cure significantly.
This container must have lost power at some point. Unfortunately, it appears its contents have escaped. How certain are we that a functional container is still here?
Based on the logs, one stock container arrived shortly before the lockdown.
Hopefully, it remains intact. I cloaked one of the sensors on this web, but it's not having the same effect as before.
One of? How many sensors does this web have?
At least 4.
Then this web must have been cultivating here for some time. It's possible this is where the outbreak originated.
Unfortunately, Jack, your cloak emitter cannot sustain enough insulation fields to blind all of those sensors.
There must be something else we can do.
Agreed. I'll find a way to retract the web. There is an electrical transformer here. Its power field appears to be keeping all nearby biomass active.
Any chance there's a bypass we've gone through?
Effectively?
If you can't cloak the sensors, cloak the power source.
Oh, nicely done, Jack.
That was unexpected. I'll need just a moment to further analyze the reconstructed targeting software. Ah, I see it now. The cloak emitter should be able to target power sources as well, as long as they're sufficiently compact.
Copy that. Proceeding through the web now. Is this the cargo bay?
Yes, and our containment unit is indeed intact.
I'm still prepping the intake system. Should be ready by the time the container gets here, though. I'm assuming we have what we need.
Readings show a full complement of ticks within. So, yes, Captain, we have what we need.
Is the unit safe to approach?
Yes, the container is fully powered and the insulation fields are active. Those ticks are pacified. I'll send a cargo drone to retrieve it as soon as the bay door is open.
On it. Collecting these ticks could not have been easy.
The X3 synthetics did lose many shares in the process, but they performed their function.
Does this crane meet the size requirements for the cloak emitter?
Unlikely. However, I suspect it is more useful without insulation anyway.
Are these the controls for the bay door?
Correct. There should be an entrance to the control booth nearby, though I am detecting a significant biomass presence in that area.
A power transformer. Much of the nearby biomass is feeding on it. Exterior bay door open.
Copy that. We'll send over a cargo drone to retrieve the container. Shouldn't take too long.
Jack, we'll just need you to manually release the container once the drone has secured it.
Acknowledged. I'll head to the cargo bay.
Let's see. Moderate store of data, but much of it could prove useful in developing a cure. Good find, Jack. This is the administration area. Once past the next hallway, Jack, you'll be back in the cargo bay.
These controls are offline. Can this door be bypassed?
I'm afraid not. However, as a precaution, this area runs on a localized power grid. If you can find a way to restore that grid, the door should become operable. Off a local power grid. You'll need the grid back online in order to proceed.
This web must be sensing the battery's power field.
Indeed. Any substantial power field will awaken all forms of biomass from dormancy.
Now that this battery has a charge, it is emitting a power field.
Nicely done. Starting to get a feel for that cloak emitter, are we, Jack?
The device has brought us that much closer to a cure. For that alone, we should be grateful.
In this corridor, I found another casualty. 2, in fact.
Dr. Stephen Garrick and Senior Technician Avery Park.
Seems they were left behind in the evacuation.
I doubt that. If they're here, it's probably because they chose to stay.
What do you mean?
I knew these people. Every researcher here understood what an outbreak would mean, that they would have to do whatever was necessary to try and protect the rest of the station.
I've nearly made it back to the cargo bay.
Good to hear, Jack. The drone should be there shortly.
Jack, the cargo drone will be unable to retrieve the container until it's released from the loading pallet. There should be a release mechanism near the container.
A way to release the container?
That is correct. That access panel may be used to free the container from the pallet below.
Container released.
Confirmed. Container primed for departure.
It will need to be hooked up once it gets here, Jack. Care to give it the final touch?
Given that we still need an FTL fuel cell, I prefer to leave the hookup to you. As long as you're feeling well enough.
No, I've got it. I can handle things here. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. More of a guideline than rule, actually.
Thanks.
Container departing in T-minus 10 seconds.
Better stay clear, Jack.
Jack, if you're planning on accompanying the container, now would be a good time to take hold. Cargo drone is departing in 3, 2, 1. Igniting thrusters. Jack, I hope you don't mind. I've switched us to another comms channel for a moment. I have a somewhat personal question to ask you. Do you mind?
Go ahead, Juno.
Captain Rhodes, she considers you a friend, yes?
Yes, that is correct.
How do you know?
In the time I have known Captain Rhodes, she has consistently demonstrated behaviors that suggest she values my company, trusts my insights, and harbors a great concern for my overall well-being.
I see.
Why do you ask?
I'm trying to discern if Dr. Harlan considers me a friend. Biometrics indicate he is still experiencing some distress, but I'm unsure if it would be appropriate for me to console him. What is your assessment?
I find Dr. Harlan difficult to fully understand. His personality differs significantly from that of Captain Rhodes. He may express his regard in a different fashion.
He does refer to me by name, a behavior he does not extend to you. Perhaps that is a positive indicator.
Perhaps.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciate your insight. Wait, did we just become friends?
I suppose we did.
Splendid. I'll return comms to the public channel now.
Juno, what is the state of Titan?
How do you mean? The weather?
No, Juno. He's asking if anyone's still living there. Our old supervisor was stationed on that moon.
Given the passage of time, I am certain that your boss has long since expired.
Yes, obviously. We know how aging works. But is there still a colony? Has it been fully terraformed? My father helped start that process.
After the Atlas Corporation dissolved in 22...
The answer is no, Captain. No colony, no terraforming. The biomass saw to that.
Right.
These containment units are quite effective. The ticks appear well pacified. How will we safely transfer them into the ship?
We've modified an intake unit to flush them directly into the engineering bay. It should be much safer than attempting a controlled breakout.
Slight deviation from the original accident, but for the added safety, worth it.